Hello, dear students. Welcome back to our news channel. Students, today we are going to talk about two news articles. In the first one, we are talking about India's population, why it's shrinking in the long term, and why that's a big deal. And in second article, we'll enter space to meet the tardigrades. Okay, the tiny water bears that may just be the toughest living creatures on earth. Okay, right. So let's start with India's population. Okay. Uh, according according to a report from United Nation Population Fund, okay, UNFPA, India's estimated population in April 2025 is 146.39 crore. And that's more than 1.46 billion people. Okay, 1.46 billion people. In fact, we have overtaken China, जिसकी population कितनी है 141.61 करोड़. China की कितनी है 141.61. So just imagine, every sixth person in the world is now Indian. But wait, while our population is growing, there's something very interesting happening beneath the surface. Our total fertility rate is actually declining. Okay, total fertility rate. In short, we call it TFR. So what's that? TFR means average number of children a woman is expected to have in her lifetime. Now, there's something also called replacement level. Okay, so that's a TFR of 2.1. Okay, replacement level of 2.1. It means two parents are replaced by two children with a little margin for infant deaths. Okay, तो TFR का मतलब क्या होता है कि अभी करेंटली TFR कितना है 2.1. 2.1 का मतलब है कि दो एडल्ट्स को रिप्लेस करने के लिए दो चिल्ड्रन हैं. Okay, with a margin of one little margin for one infant deaths. Okay, so if the TFR, if total fertility rate falls below this number 2.1, अगर इससे below जाएगा, अगर total fertility rate, okay, it means that in the long run the population could start to shrink. And here's what the report says: India's TFR is now 1.9, below the replacement level. This means that Indian women are having fewer children. And that's happening in almost all parts of India. It's not just related to one specific state. Okay. So if we compare it with our neighbors, Afghanistan, it has 4.7, total fertility rate of 4.7, Pakistan 3.5, Bangladesh 2.1, and his list are mentioned. Okay. So even China, which used to have one child policy, is now facing a bigger population challenge. Okay. So the question is, you might be thinking, ma'am, is this good news or bad news? Well, students, good news is that smaller families mean better health, more education, and economic opportunity for each child. Okay. And it may also help reduce poverty, malnutrition, and long run में क्या होगा, जो resource पे stress पड़ता है, that will also reduce. But here's the twist. As fewer children are born, India's population will age. Okay. So by the time we reach 170 crore people, probably in the next 40 years, है ना, तब क्या होगा? Population will start to decline. Imagine a country where older people outnumber young workers. उससे क्या होगा? Fewer people to work, pay taxes, and take care of the elderly. And that is, students, this situation is already happening in countries like Japan, Italy, and South Korea. वहां पे ये already ही हो रहा है. Okay, वहां पे already ऐसी situation है जहां पर जो older लोग हैं वो ज्यादा हैं. Right? So while our numbers are big now, the focus is shifting from how many people we have to how, we have to, how well they live. Right? So ये एक चीज है. Another thing that we are going to talk about is, why was the census delayed? See, India was supposed to conduct its uh, census in the year 2021. 2021 में census conduct करना था, but it got delayed mainly due to COVID-19 pandemic, right? Now the government says it will be completed by March to 2027. And last census was done back in 2011. Last census 2011 में हुआ था. अब एक्चुअल में 10 इयर्स का गैप होता है. आफ्टर 10 इयर्स सेंसस इज डन, बट 2021 में कोविड हो गया, तो अब कंप्लीट कब हो रहा है? 2027. Okay, so that's like trying to plan your school picnic using a 14-year-old map. Not the best idea, right? So see, fresh census से क्या होता है? अगर हमारे पास डेटा है, fresh डेटा है, उससे क्या होगा? It helps us understand how many people live where, okay, what facilities are needed, like schools, hospitals, roads, क्या क्या facilities की जरूरत है, and which region need more attention. कौन से region ऐसे है जहां पे attention सबसे ज्यादा चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को, right? कहाँ पे investment की ज्यादा जरूरत है. So to sum up this part, India has the world's largest population, ये तो हमें पता है, but also a falling birth rate. That means our future challenges will be less about size and more about balance. Okay? That is between youth and age, between even resources and people. Right? तो ये चीज है जो हमें फ्यूचर में देखने को मिलेगा. And this situation is already happening in some countries. Right? I hope you are clear with total fertility rate and replacement level क्या होता है. If you're still having doubt, listen to this podcast again. Okay? Now, students, let's talk about a creature. Okay, tail of tardigrades, right? अब इसके लिए हमें कहाँ पे हम बात कर सकते हैं? इसके लिए हम स्पेस में भी जा सकते हैं. Okay, so astronaut, like yesterday we covered that astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla during his 2-week mission to IAS will be conducting a fascinating experiment. है ना, हमने ये yesterday डिस्कस किया था, राइट? तो अब इसमें एक और एक्सपेरिमेंट जो है उसमें एक है वॉयेजर टार्डिग्रेड्स एक्सपेरिमेंट. ओके, व्हाट आर टार्डिग्रेड्स? स्टूडेंट्स, दे आर आल्सो कॉल्ड वाटर bears or moss piglets or water bears. Okay, and they are among the toughest living creatures on earth, right? सबसे toughest है ये. क्यों? Because they have been on earth for around 600 million years, even before the dinosaurs. उससे पहले के हैं ये. And they can survive extreme heat up to 272 degree Celsius. 272 degrees Celsius. And extreme cold as low as -150. -150 की कोल्ड और हाईएस्ट 272 जो टेम्परेचर एक्सट्रीम हीट है वो सरवाइव कर सकते हैं, राइट? दे कैन सर्वाइव इवन विदाउट वाटर, ऑक्सीजन, और स्पेस में भी ये सर्वाइव कर सकते हैं, राइट? These tiny creatures just 0.5 millimeter long. इनका साइज में कितना है? सिर्फ 0.5 मिलीमीटर. इतने छोटे से हैं, right? And they can live in space. All right? So where do they live? Almost everywhere. हर जगह पाए जाते हैं ये. Deep oceans हो गया, high mountains हो गया, Arctic snow हो गया, and especially on moss and lichens. Moss और lichens जो नॉन फ्लावरिंग प्लांट्स होते हैं वहां पर भी ये पाए जाते हैं, right? And that is why they are also called moss piglets. Okay, they have 8 legs with claws and a mouth that use to suck nutrients from plants and tiny creatures. Okay, so think of them as vacuum cleaners of the microbe world, right? Now the question is, why are scientists so interested in these creatures? Students, the main reason is, of course, their superpower called cryptobiosis. Cryptobiosis. Cryptobiosis क्या है? Students, in this state, the tardigrades, they can reduce their metabolism to 0.01%. ओके, जो अपना मेटाबॉलिज्म है उसको वो इस लेवल तक रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं. दे कैन लूज मोर देन 95% ऑफ देयर बॉडी वाटर. हमारी बॉडी पूरी वाटर में है, वाटर से बनी है, राइट? मोर देन 70% ऑफ आवर बॉडी कंसिस्ट ऑफ वाटर ओनली. तो अपने बॉडी का 95% बॉडी वाटर ये लूज कर सकते हैं. कब? जब क्रिप्टोबायोसिस की स्टेट में हो. दे कैन श्रिंक इनटू अ टन लाइक अ मिनी सीड. ओके, एक मिनी सीड की तरह श्रिंक हो सकते हैं एंड कैन सर्वाइव ऑलमोस्ट एनीथिंग, हीट, कोल्ड, रेडिएशन, इवन स्पेस. सो इट्स लाइक गोइंग इनटू पॉज मोड ऑन लाइफ. ओके, तो जो वॉयेजर टार्डिग्रेड्स एक्सपेरिमेंट है उसमें एस्ट्रोनॉट्स क्या करेंगे? they will carry tardigrades in a dried up ton state to space. ton state अभी मैंने आपको बताया ना. टन स्टेट क्या है? क्रिप्टोबायोसिस में जब वो अपने बॉडी को एक सीड की तरह चेंज कर देते हैं, ये सीड की तरह. ओके, सब कुछ लूज करके, वाटर बॉडी लूज करके और अपने मेटाबॉलिज्म को रिड्यूस करके एक टन में कन्वर्ट हो जाते हैं, जिसको हम सीड भी कह सकते हैं. सीड की फॉर्म में चेंज हो जाते हैं और इसका नाम है टन, राइट? तो एस्ट्रोनॉट्स क्या करेंगे? दे विल कैरी these tardigrades in a dried up ton state to space, and then they will expose them to space radiation and microgravity. They are gonna revive them with water and study how they recover and survive. कैसे रिकवर करते हैं, कैसे रिप्रोड्यूस करते हैं, कैसे सर्वाइव करते हैं, राइट? So the goal, students, is to understand the genes and proteins that protect them. कि आखिरकार वो कौन से जीन्स और प्रोटीन्स हैं जो इन टार्डिग्रेड्स को इन एक्सट्रीम कंडीशंस में भी सर्वाइव करते हैं, राइट? एंड this will also help astronauts survive long space journeys and maybe even learn how to preserve human organs or create better sunscreens, okay, up in space, right? So tardigrades, they are they make special proteins called CAHs. Okay, and these proteins form a gel inside their bodies, kind of like a jello, okay, that protects their cells from any damage. So it's like wearing an invisible shield inside their bodies. Okay, now students, back in 2007, tardigrades were sent into space by the European Space Agency and they were exposed to open space. Okay, 2007 में भी किया गया था ये experiment. So what happened that time? Some of them survived. Okay, and they became the first animals to survive outer space without a spacesuit or a spaceship. So these are what? Total legends, right? Space में survive कर रहे हैं ये creatures, right? So that's the reason, students, why scientists are obsessed with these tiny water beds. Because who knows, they might help us unlock secrets for surviving climate change, space travel, and even medical breakthroughs. Okay? So that's all for today, students. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your curious friends. Okay? That's all for today. Bye-bye. Stay smart. And remember, even the smallest creatures can teach us the biggest lessons. Okay?